It's been said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So where would you rather be than right here and right now on the Ralph Rant? Let's go.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant, your source for hard-hitting Buffalo Bills takes. Now, here's your host of the Ralph Rant, that veteran watcher of generations of Bills teams, the prophet who predicted Josh Allen's greatness, that opinionated so-and-so you've walked out on parties because of, the Ralph.
Welcome so much. Welcome so much. What does that mean? Welcome to the Ralph Rant. I don't even want to say the name. Thank you ever so much for being here. Very much appreciate it. I see we got a lot of folks in the house right now. And if you're as pissed as I am, you'd probably be diving through the camera just like I'm ready to dive through the camera. The Buffalo Bills lost a stinker 24-14 to the Atlanta Falcons, to Michael Penix Jr., to Raheem Morris. I usually start out the show talking about what I saw during the game, but I must come out of the notebook here and go to the end with a few questions I have. Because you could look at both sides of the ball on this, but truthfully the question has to be asked of Brandon Beane. With picks 1 through 3 contributing little or nothing to this team, what could you have gotten from them in trade? Because there's no Maxwell Hairston. He isn't even seeing the field, as I stated last week. TJ Sanders has been largely ineffective and now was down this week. Landon Jackson is getting a few snaps, but just doesn't seem to get it yet. And the 4th round pick, Deion Walker, was probably the best player on the field for the Buffalo Bills tonight. What are some other questions? If Sean McDermott is wearing glasses tonight with clear frames, so maybe you couldn't see them from a distance, but Sean, we get close-ups of you all game. It begs the question, Sean, what have you been looking at the previous 5 games? What have you been looking at? Because I know what I've been looking at. Brandon Beane, Bobby Babich, and really Joe Brady. Each of them need to be questioned in this mess. You know, we can bring some comparisons in to try to make ourselves feel better. The Bills went 4-3 after 7 games in 2023. They were 4-2 after 6 games in 2024. And now they're 4-2 after 6 games in 2025. But I got news for you. The Bills were clowning some of those teams. 48-20 over the Dolphins. You recall after the Dolphins scored 70 on the Broncos the previous week. They beat the hell out of the Raiders. They beat the hell out of the Commanders. They beat the hell out of Jacksonville last year. In the previous season of 23 also, some of those were 23, some of those were 24. The point being that the Bills were winning big in some of those games. And again, I said these words last week, and I'll say them again this week. We can jump on the Bills' defense and Bobby Babich, and I will for good reason. But the fact is, if you are an NFL team holding your opponent to the low or mid-20s, as has happened the last 2 weeks, and you've got Josh Allen on your team, you should be winning those games. you should be winning those games. I'm going to get to your comments tonight because I know there's tons of them. And I'll go through some of the game here. We all watched it. I don't know, get into deep detail, but I've got some other things. Of course, Charles Stone is in the house early before he even started here with his comments. Once again, a couple of cute plays. And we saw James Cook on the sideline with a look on his face like, what the hell am I doing on the sideline on a 4th and 2 when I have demonstrated the ability to gash this defense somewhat in the second half, especially on that first drive. And why? He was showing some patience, for one thing. I saw him show a lot more patience than he did in the first half. But once again, Brady lines them up like they're going to do one thing, like to put the ball in Josh Allen's hands on the 4th and 2 or 3 or whatever it was on that second drive, I believe, in the second half. And once again, you run a cute end around to Elijah Moore, who's on the field how much? He's been a healthy scratch most weeks. And bobbles the ball and trips over his whatever and loses yardage. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're wasting Josh Allen. Wasting him like 3 wishes and just crapping them away. Get into my notes here. Getting better at taking them here because I'm trying to be more concise. And frankly, the only time I really bashed this book on the entertainment center just beneath the big screen I was watching this on was that cute play. But I said before the game, I never thought a 4-1 team would appear to have its back against the wall. But that's precisely how I felt going into this game. And we start out, and I'm going to say the other thing too, and it's not only this game, and it wasn't as bad in this game. Sean Smith is a better ref, I think, but that ridiculous display of officiating last evening, where Travis Kelce Swift, what the hell is that thing doing? Sorry, my monitor went out there. But we'll just look at, we don't need to see anything Bills behind me. We'll just look at Roku's freaking screensaver. It's better than what was up there anyway. But Travis Kelce Swift, no catch last night. They're missing pass interference calls. And then tonight, Trey White gets called in an interference on a short throw about 5 yards downfield. I mean, I thought you could hit a receiver 5 yards downfield. But they call pass interference. And later, I don't know what Bills receiver, on the same spot outside about 5 yards downfield, gets mugged, and there's no call. The inconsistency of officiating is ridiculous. And the fact that we don't use cameras, which at least we have those going, but some calls we go and take a look at and say, oh, that wasn't the case. But other calls we could take a look at and just, we can look at them, but we can't make any changes. But even on the very first play, Bijan Robinson fumbles and the Bills recover, but they're called on offside. But the refs fail to recognize that the motion player on Atlanta was moving forward at the snap of the ball, which I believe is a penalty. And that at least would have been offsetting. But in case, rather than getting the fumble, it's 1st and 5. But then, they run and pass down the field unchallenged, 7-0. I'll go through this quickly. Then Josh with a really good drive start. He throws downfield right off the bat. Brady tries to make up for all the shit that's said about him the week before, like we're not throwing downfield. So let's do it once so we can quiet the crowd. And then I don't even know what that note is. Knox, 19 yards then. And Josh showing some running threat, and he drew the linebacker up on that throw to Knox for the touchdown. Then personal foul on Sam Franklin on the kickoff, takes him out to the 42-yard line. Once again, opposition gets a great drive start. Bills stop 3 and out. Bills receive the front. 26-yard line start, 3 and out. With the only positive being a desperation throw outside that Khalil Shakir didn't get both feet down. Incomplete. Then there's the penalties. Trey had the DPI on the next play. There was a missed face mask by Atlanta. My daughter's here actually from school on fall break watching with me screaming that didn't get called. But moreover, there's no contested catches. There's bad tackling. Drake London gets a touchdown. I've got here Babbage, question mark, and then referee agenda, question mark. So now it's 14-7. Cook is totally ineffective in the next drive. Starts at 25. Shakir first down, catch on 3rd and 10. Palmer catch, but down on the field. He's hurt with a bad ankle. Looked like it could have been an MCL. Next play, McGovern gets injured. He came back out. The pass protection was getting worse. It was my note about McDermott and his glasses. What the hell's going on with that? Maybe I figured if he put on glasses, a ref wouldn't take a swing at him, so then maybe he would actually get in a referee's face. I'll get to more on that. Then Atlanta starts deep. Bills offside, 1st and 5. Bijan, long run. Gap integrity. How many guys did they have on that side? Are they not teaching the guys about the cutback on a wide zone? That's like the idea of a wide zone. You could cut back. It's not the Lombardi sweep anymore. Then a crappy return. Cook first good run, 43-yard midfield. They were midfield, not doing well. 4th and 3, and they punt. Then Atlanta gets the ball about first down on the 5-yard line. There's, again, no contested catches. They're burning the clock. 4th and 3, Atlanta runs 2 minutes. And then the Bills get the ball. And 3rd and 6, the Bills get the DPI on a Trey that wasn't called. What's the agenda? Atlanta gets the ball back and punts. And Josh throws an interception. I mean, we all saw it here. I could just keep on going over and over this stuff, and it's making me ill, and I don't need to spend too long on the podcast covering that. Again, I ask, what could the Bills have gotten for draft picks 1 through 3, Maxwell Hairston, TJ Sanders, who's hurt, and Landon Jackson, who looks like he should be redshirted because he does not seem to be getting it, apparently. Didn't even get on the field earlier. In the 4th round pick, Deion Walker was the best Bills player on the field tonight, in my estimation. I don't know what to say. You could talk about scheme if you want. We could talk a lot about scheme. We could talk about talent, certainly. And that's a bean conversation. But this team lacks attitude this season, guys. I'm telling you, the team lacks attitude. And a lot of this game is about attitude. The Lions, they have some attitude with Dan Campbell. Vrabel's got some attitude. Have you ever seen McDermott throw down his headset in anger going after a ref on a call? What I'm doing, I'm watching something from the Bills about we're visualizing winning and so forth. Now, again, I've made the statement that the defense has actually been holding people, and we've not gotten clowned with big scores against us. Although, except for the Ravens, which that might have been the worst thing that happened to the Bills all season, was coming back and winning that game like that. Because when you start thinking your shit doesn't stink, and then you see what happens. And again, maybe the Bills, they're like Secretariat. They need to get in a hole before they wake up and figure out what's going on. I don't know. I don't know. They could come back and be great, but when you're not getting anything out of your early round draft picks, season after season, that's a problem. That's a problem. I mean, we're looking at guys in the NFL Buffalo could have had in that secondary. And again, I don't want to pick on the defense because of the point total, but frankly, since the Ravens, who seem to be broken themselves, who in the hell have the Bills even played that you would worry about getting a score run up high on you? They really haven't. So to say that the defense has been great because they've been limiting people to 21 and 24 and 23 points and so forth. Get rid of this fucking stupid monitor. It's just heating up the room anyway. But what are you going to say about the secondary? I think Cole Bishop got benched for a while tonight. Jordan Poyer was out there. You've got missed tackles. Cole Bishop has his arms around Bijan Robinson on the sideline and loses him. And we could talk about, Bijan Robinson is great and so forth, but it's I just don't see the attitude. I don't see the attitude on the part of this team. I don't see it. I don't see coaches getting angry. At least we had Dorsey throwing crap around the booth when the Dolphins ended up winning the hothouse game. But you don't see it. You just don't see it. You don't even see Josh Allen on the sideline talking to people. I don't know what's the matter with this team. And I haven't wanted to say it, but I think McDermott is weak here. I think he is weak. We are wasting Josh Allen. Bobby Babich, who is a linebackers and secondary coach primarily, not defensive line, as we know, and as we also know, Ryan Nielsen was brought in on the 5th of February, before the Super Bowl even, to try to take care of the defensive line. And Bean tried to do that. I mean, he went out and picked T.J. Sanders, and he picked Landon Jackson, and they've largely been ineffective. Deion Walker, again, is the best player on the defensive line through these 5 weeks. And you say, it's Ed Alvarez. Ed Alvarez has been on the field. If you're getting stepped on in practice, somebody better figure something out about getting stepped on in practice. You'd like to follow some other teams more closely and see how they do their coaching. Because the Buffalo Bills secondary, there are people just by themselves. You're late in the game and it's a one-score game. What in the hell is Bijan Robinson doing by himself on the sideline? Their best offensive player. What is that? What is going on? There's guys you could have drafted. I don't want to mention names, but you got Trey White out there. And Bedford isn't playing worth the crap. And Cole Bishop is, okay, you can say what you want, but, it wasn't there tonight. You had Poyer out there. Your best linebacker is what, 32 or whatever, Shaq Thompson? He had a chance to tie the game late with that ball right in his hands. These guys are just not present or something. I don't know what it is. But something has to change. Something has to get shaken up. You've got a bye week here. And I think McDermott's weak, and I don't know about the glasses. I'd have done anything. I'd have gotten like LASIK surgery, anything but step out in the field wearing a pair of like big-ass goggle glasses with clear frames so maybe they don't get seen. What the hell were you looking at the first 5 games, Sean? Do you ever get pissed off on the sideline, Sean? What's going on? Joe Brady calling more cute plays. The 2 best players on the offense are Josh Allen and James Cook. And you didn't put the ball in either of their hands, Joe Brady, on a 4th and 3 that you desperately needed. What in the name of fucking Mike are you doing? Pardon the French. I know there's some kids watching this, but we get worried about bad words being said with all the other crap that's going on in this country. I don't want to hear it. But this is unbelievable. I'll go respond to some of these comments here. Fume drummer in the house, horrible ending. Boy, you know that. Charles Stone, gotta hope they get some things straightened out during the bye week. At least they'll get or Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi starting against the Panthers. That may well help, but it's not going to help the secondary. And I was horrified this week to learn that nobody on IR, and we're talking about Maxwell Hairston, has even entered the 21-day window. How is it possible to have a first-round pick that is a bust before even setting his foot on an NFL field? But right now it's like that because you needed help in the secondary. And you picked the wrong guy, Bean. Penalties again? Absolutely. Still struggling against the run some? Yeah, the gap integrity. When you've got guys there, the whole idea of a zone scheme, and you guys could tell a zone scheme when all the offensive linemen are going one way or the other, that's a zone scheme rather than like a pin and pull or some sort of gap scheme. Because in a zone scheme, there's not a specific hole that's intended to be created. What it is the back is supposed to look for cutback lanes because you've got the defense all flowing one way. And I'm one of those. And when the Bills had a lot of people over there, and McDermott even said it coming back in the second half with those dumbass interviews they do of the coaches, it's gap integrity, and you had guys over there. I don't know who's running the show on the defense, but I think it's a little bit by committee. You've got Ryan Nielsen running the line. You've got Bobby Babich as the supposed defensive coordinator. I don't know if you can or want to fire those guys, but something needs to happen. And Joe Brady, you're wasting Josh Allen. And this is the problem with Joe Brady. Joe Brady has been thought of as being great, but you were great at LSU because you had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And you were good for a while here with Josh Allen, but there's no and. There's no other person. Because why? Because, and maybe Jeremy White of WGR was right about the receiver pick, because there wasn't one made, and the Bills need an alpha receiver. You can't just have one alpha on the offense. And you'll say, well, I know you're talking about Josh Allen, but what about James Cook? James Cook is 5'11", 190. He is not Bijan Robinson. He is not what Derrick Henry, well, I guess used to be. The Ravens have fallen apart too, and there's talent there also, and there's injuries there also, and there's shitty coaching there also. And I don't know. The Bills might have to do something here because, you can't waste Josh Allen's entire career screwing around like this. You're getting him hit tonight. I don't know what's going on with being able to handle these pressures that are coming at him. And he's not getting away from people like he used to. He's not getting free like he used to. Joe Brady is not demonstrating faith in the offensive line by just letting them fire off on a 4th and 3, and instead doing some daffy ass, again, end around, difficult handoff to a player that hardly ever gets handoffs. Sound like I'm like a replay of last week. The only difference this time was he stumbled and fell, and it wasn't a fumble. And the only other difference it was this week is that this was at a really critical point in the game, whereas the one last week to Dawson Knox was not. How much did the Bills miss Dalton Kincaid tonight? He's the best receiver. Then they had the other 4th down when Josh tries to do the push pass. I like Ty Johnson, but Ty, it's 4th and 2. You're running out in the flat. You've got your back to the quarterback for the first 2/3 of the route, and you're 7 yards downfield. Are you shitting me? You get in the spot and turn around so Josh can get the ball to you, not have to dive forward to try to get it when he's running for his life. The offensive line, I don't know. They've been reading their press clippings of how good of an offensive line they are. Maybe this team needs to get into trouble. Maybe they need to have, a difficult situation going. The fuck is that display name showing? Fucking StreamYard sucks as much as the Bills tonight. Get back to your comments over here. The offense is so predictable. When Cook is in there, you know it's a run. When Johnson or Davis, you know it's a pass. It's so obvious. So true. It's the one bright spot, your second string running back, Ray Davis, actually for the first time all season, actually contributed something rather than getting stopped for no gain or a loss. And then, of course, after Ray scored the touchdown, he disappeared also. Patriots are in first place. The Bills do not have first place in the division. And that's because of the same type of crap that happened tonight and last week and has been happening in previous weeks. Maybe the Bills' feel-good thing kind of like ran its course and ran out. after the win against the Ravens. Defense wins championships. Someone tell Babich. Yeah, they got a couple stops late. Brady on offense, I mean, the answer is not running cute plays. Maybe go out and run no huddle. Maybe have Josh call plays like Jim Kelly did. I mean, something has to be better. This offense has to perform better. The offense isn't performing well, and it's putting the defense in difficult positions. The run stopping's not great, but it's not bad. They've been there. The big problem on defense is the linebackers, which we've got small guys, and it wasn't enough that Terrell Bernard gets hurt, but then Mr. Friendly Fire himself has to come flying over and land on his hurt ankle as he's on the ground. Taylor Rapp is nearly invisible. The secondary is horrifying. Every opposing offense is finding wide open receivers. How many contested catches were there tonight? Yeah, Taron Johnson knocked one away on a big play that was a fourth down that gave the Bills the ball. I saw one other knockdown, but too many of the catches being made by opposing offenses are to receivers who don't have anybody within 6 or 7 feet of them when the ball arrives. I haven't watched McDermott's comments yet, or Josh Allen's comments. I haven't watched any other podcast. I don't do that before this show because I just want to give you my raw reactions. I will be looking at the film tomorrow. I will be coming to you, hopefully, by the early evening with a recorded piece on what I saw on film. But I think film is a big part of it. But again, I think it's attitude. It's definitely attitude. Vito B, I gotta let you put that comment up there. I'm always one to admit, and I thought it would be better, but I thought it would be better because I had more trust in the draft picks that were made. And Max Hairston might be great, but we don't know because he hasn't even seen an NFL field yet. And TJ Sanders, the number 2 pick of the Bills, has been utterly and completely overshadowed by the number 4 pick, Deion Walker. And of course, some people stayed off with Walker because of the injuries, and his 24 season didn't look like the 23. I got news for you. Bills need to start trading away their number 1, 2, and 3 picks because Bean doesn't know how to pick top talent out of the draft. And I would take more shots on getting guys like Dorian Strong, who they've gotten hurt now also, or Hancock, who looks like he could be good. Deion Walker, of course. But I'd fire somebody. I'd fire somebody's ass in this process, or do something because this is wrong. And I don't know if I know that Terry Pagula is a hands-off kind of owner, but he has been successful in business, and he must know something, even if it's not specifically about football. But there's something deeper here than about football. There's a lack of attitude. I'm not the best person of breaking down film you're going to see on one of these podcasts. I don't have the most inside connections. Really, the only guy I've ever had on the show so far is the wonderful Arthur Moats, who just sent me his book this week. I highly recommend it, guys. This is a great man, and he's great for reasons other than football. And go catch his stuff too, because he'll have some things to say about this. He'll be softer on this than I will. But you can't waste Josh Allen like this, and you cannot be losing to teams like this when you have these opportunities. No, Vito, at least you agree with me about that. And I believe attitude is huge. We're going to keep on going through there. Early in season for attitude. We haven't gotten clown because we haven't had less than opponents. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Allen's doing too many commercials. Don't seem like they practiced anything. Yeah, I believe that. I don't know how much it's affecting him or when they do these things. I'm sure they're not happening during the week, but I sense a little bit of lack of commitment in him, just a little bit of backing off. I'll have to see the postgame interview tonight, but he's got to be discouraged. He's got to be discouraged with this. And he's talking about, his wife who was awesome and all of this stuff when in the interview that most of you may have seen prior to the beginning of the ball game. This crap about Scotty Scheffler. That's freaking golf. Don't compare golf to football, please. I love watching golf. I do. But there's no comparison to that. This is a game of emotion and attitude and belief. And those seem to be largely missing. We're seeing a little bit of it on the defense, but this offense is not doing the defense any favors. How many 3-and-outs did the Bills have tonight? And then they had another turnover. The yardage differential was horrifying early on. Trubisky got a national commercial deal. Good for him. Trubisky might be winning some of these games if he had an alpha receiver. But they won't even give Josh an alpha receiver. And Bean needs to go and trade a high pick, for A.J. Brown. Because his high picks don't work out. Keon Coleman was an utter zero tonight, just like his jersey. Yeah, you knew when they activated Poyer. Exactly. Well, they activated Poyer because Damar Hamlin is on IR with a pectoral. And Damar Hamlin hadn't really seen the field. No, this is not a third full of Bombay Sapphire gin. Perhaps it should be, but it's just lemonade. Good players don't miss opportunities. Vito, you should be doing the show with me. Bishop missed opportunities. Not so good. Lots of holes to fill on the team. Yeah, it's a mess. Josh Allen on commercials. How about Brandon Beane staying off of Pat McAfee and then doing your job? We are not identifying players in the draft. You cannot expect this team to be doing much of anything when you're getting 0 out of your first 3 draft picks, rounds 1, 2, and 3. We've been saying MCD has to go for 5 years now. Bills look entitled. Lack of effort on many players. Where's Bosa? Again, we can talk about leadership. We can talk about scheme. We could talk about player selections, but there's just not an attitude on this team. And I think if anything has been shown, that a team takes on the personality of its head coach. And I am still waiting on one of these crap calls for Sean McDermott to go running down the field, throwing his headset in the ground, or throwing one of those stupid Microsoft iPads down, or whatever the hell they're called, and screaming at an official. You know, give him a little bit of the spray. Stands around on the sideline looking like somebody's Uncle Jim that never got married and we're wondering why. I mean, come on, man. Where's the spirit? Where's the fire? You know, Dan Campbell, one of his players punched out Juju Smith-Schuster, and you know what a pain in the ass Schuster is. And a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs organization, for that matter. So Dan Campbell apologizes to Reed and says there's no place for that and so forth. Release his players had some fight. At least they get pissed off. This is a game of emotion. And the Bills look like they've taken on the emotional profile of their head coach who just sits on the sideline and scowls. I can't wait to hear what McDermott will say tonight. I'll watch it afterwards. Yeah. Elam, first-round pick. That's another one. How many first-round picks have been wasted? They had a thumping linebacker, Tremaine Edmonds. Looks pretty good in Chicago now. Remember how young he was when he came aboard? We've got these tiny-ass linebackers. We got no speed in the secondary. I mean, I watched some of the Hard Knocks stuff, and we saw Bobby Babich in some meetings. And you hear Babich talk, and it's like, that doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound in command. It's like he's towing a company line. Like he's, maybe McDermott's puppet. Some of you guys have said that. I've tried to stay away from feeling like that. But I can't help but thinking, because the linebacker play and the safety play and the corner play on this team is terrible. It's terrible. The defensive line play has been pretty decent. Deion Walker's a stud. Ed Oliver's tough. Bosa and Groot, they're decent starters, but we don't have really an alpha like a Micah Parsons or an Abdul Carter. There's just no attitude. Look at what the Giants did to Philadelphia. That's attitude. It's all about attitude. You see how mad Brian Dable gets when he's jumping on either players or referees. Gets that red face going, pulls a headset off. There's no fire on this Bills team. There's no fire. And it's like in a military situation. If you get top commanders that start playing it safe, that shit starts to trickle down. Trickles down the ranks. And you can see it's affecting Josh Allen now. And it goes farther. I mean, you see a little bit of fire, at least. I mean, the most we saw is on out of the defensive line tonight. People are not present. You got a starting linebacker out there that's like 30 plus, who is another McDermott retread. Shaq Thompson's okay, but he had a game-changing ball right in his two hands. Just not present. Eric Ellis is in the house. I wanted Sean to freak out at some point, be it for a bad call or for a poor play. No, he just clamps his hands with a blank face. Jesus Christ, get mad, you son of a bitch. Exactly. You know, what happened when, you know, Elijah Moore, you know, fucks up the fourth down? He's like, there's no attitude. There are no dogs on this team, just a bunch of kitty cats, entitled kitty cats. Playing scared the McDermott way. Yeah, on the 4th and 3 from the 47, you're the Buffalo Bills, for Christ's sake. You have Josh Allen. And for how good Joe Brady is supposed to be, he has yet to figure out how to scheme some layups. You watch the goddamn Chiefs, and it's just like, oh, they're in trouble, bloop, oh, here's somebody wide open. Some regimes are good for bringing teams out of a lowly state. And this one of McDermott and Bean was good at that. They brought the team out of the drought. You know, Moses led the Hebrews across the desert, right? But over the River Jordan, or through the Red Sea. But he couldn't pass the River Jordan because he was the guy that brought him that far. Then it was Joshua, of all names, that took them further. And it's the same story. It's as old as the crucifixion. You have to get leadership that's right for the point, right for the moment. And it is bled down the ranks because there's no anger, there's no intensity. I don't see a defense that's sitting there twitching and fuming, just waiting to be released. You do not have a single alpha in the receiver corps on the offense. And as much as I want to blame Babbage for wide open receivers and gap integrity that's terrible, it's the fact that this offense with Josh Allen, who is the alpha, it's not working. He can't do it himself. Bills need to take a second-round pick and trade it for A.J. Brown and get him in the building. I don't know how the Bills are going to handle the Panthers in 2 weeks. They aren't worth a shit coming off the bye. We know that. And then they got the Chiefs coming to town. And that offense of the Chiefs is going to eat Buffalo alive. You think guys were wide open here? They've got Xavier Worthy, who they could have had, by the way, rather than Keon fucking Coleman. And they're getting the felon back, Rashee Rice. You don't have any speed in your secondary. None. Benford's not fast. Trey's not fast. Cole Bishop is, doesn't have range. He can hit, but he took a crappy angle and then couldn't even tackle Bijan Robinson tonight. Taylor Rapp injures more Bills than he does anybody else. And again, these guys are retreads. They were picks from other places, not draft picks, because Brandon Beane does not seem to be able to find the right players. I don't know who he's talking to or who he's listening to. Anyway, guys, I've been bitching here for nearly an hour. It's hopefully therapy for you as it is for me. But I see we got a bunch of folks in the house here. Looks like we've got 136, and there's nothing like a loss to fill up your live stream and a post game. I'd love to know where you're coming from and so forth. And if you're able to, if you want to hear this kind of content, go ahead and just take the nanosecond to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Getting a lot of comments, and I'd like to know where you're coming from, where people are. I know we've got them all over the place. There's a guy in the Philippines that will be tuning in and watching the replay of the vid. Another guy in Portugal who will be coming back. We've got Bills fans all over the world who are interested in this subject matter. And, of course, you can go to some podcasts and, I'll take a look at film. But again, I'm not an expert at breaking down film. I'm going to attempt to be. I try to learn as much as I can each and every time. And those are fine points of the game. But there's some guys that say, the answers are all in the film. No, they're not in the film. What happened is on the film, and you could answer why this or this did or didn't happen in the film. But there's far more to this game, and it's what we're talking about here. And it's why I call this the Attitude Show, which used to show up in this monitor in the beginning. I guess I shouldn't have had it running for couple of hours before I started because it's a little bit older and the Bills' way of doing things is looking a little bit older. How about Vince Lombardi? Go look at some of the tapes of him. What the hell are you doing out there? You're grabbing. They're just grabbing. Do we have any tapes of McDermott saying that? No, they can't mic him up because they would distort the mic because it's this all night. This is the Ralph Rant. This is the shirt here. You guys can get it at some point. But again, go ahead and subscribe. Be part of the show. Let me know where you're coming from. Where you're at. I apologize if this stream is coming to you slightly out of sync. It's a technical issue. I need a piece of gear to get that taken care of, which I should have soon. I actually worked for a couple of hours this afternoon to accomplish it with a software solution that does not work. So we'll be getting that fixed, but definitely go ahead and become part of the Ralph Rant. We can talk about these things some more. Where are you seeing 130 plus viewers? I'm seeing 13 on YouTube. I think they're over on Twitter also. And yes, exactly. Yeah, there's 122 over on Twitter right now, and there's 12 on the channel here. And that's why a lot of them can't comment if they're watching on Twitter. That comment situation does not work the same. So that's where I'm seeing them. What did I think of the retro helmets and the field markings? You talking about tonight? I like the Standing Buffalo throwbacks. As far as the field markings at Atlanta, I could give a shit less. As far as the Bills' rivalry uniforms last week, I think they're trash. It's just a scheme to get people to spend their hard-earned money to buy jerseys that actually sucked because you couldn't even see numbers last week. I couldn't tell Dalton Kincaid from Dawson Knox from Jackson Hawes because they're all wearing the same 80-something jersey. But at any rate, I'm out of material here. I mean, we just saw the same things we saw all last week, and it was just a repeat. An away game. They didn't come in prep for a team that was fired up that hadn't had a Monday night game in 7 years. And you saw the fire on their side of the ball. They got some studs on the defense who were dogs and were after it. And they've got an offensive skill player who is an alpha. They got a couple of them, actually. Bijan Robinson and Drake London. And in the game, and an interception is digging your dick into the dirt. Horrible. Absolutely. And Allen's heart wasn't in any. Anyway, I mean, they were going to be down 10. They had no chance. The only chance they had was in Shaq Thompson's hands because he would have scored on that, perhaps, or gotten pretty deep. He had a pretty good running start, and he was outside if he hangs on to that football. But it's just the lack of presence. Yeah, I'm going to do the same, Eric. I want to thank you guys for watching. We're going to sign off for tonight. I'm not going to rehash the same stuff I bitched about already. I'm just going to end up with a headache and make this vid too long. Like people to be able to catch the pregame show without being horrified at looking at 2 hours and 12 minutes like it was last week. No point in it. So I'm going to go off now and see what McDermott has to say and see what Josh Allen had to say. I'm, of course, going to look at the film tomorrow. But this business about attitude and fire on this team is what it's about. And it's missing. Because the Bills are just expecting it to happen for them. And perhaps, again, just like these last two seasons, they even ended up at 6-6, you recall, 2023. They were 4-2 after 6 games last year. They're 4-2 after 6 games this year. But I just see some differences between those and this season. And it's with the fire and the urgency on the team. Maybe it'll come now because if you don't call these last 2 games squarely kicks in first the left and then the right nut, then I don't know what is. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight. Thanks so much for watching. Again, subscribe if you're on Twitter. Go ahead and go over to the channel. Follow me there. Jump onto YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We'll have a lot more coming, but I appreciate it. And I'll say it with some difficulty tonight, but be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills. I am the Ralph. This is the Ralph Rant. Thank you ever, ever so much for watching.